Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're heading back, way back, into ancient history. But we're looking for lessons, timeless stuff that really hits home today. Our mission in this deep dive, to pull out the key insights from a really powerful story, Nehemiah chapter 2. We're using a commentary that digs into how God often steps in to care for people and work through them. And look, this isn't just some old record. It feels more like an assurance, that if you're genuinely lined up with a purpose bigger than yourself, protection, provision, they're actually possible, sometimes in really surprising ways. Okay, let's unpack this.
It really is striking, isn't it, how this chapter just lays it out. Even when things look completely impossible, faith in action, actually doing something, can open doors you didn't even see. It's a powerful example of what some call divine orchestration, that sort of guiding hand behind the scenes. And the theme, the thread through the whole thing, God's protection and provision for those who are faithful, it's just woven right through.
Absolutely. So let's picture the scene for you. Nehemiah, he's the cupbearer to King Artaxerxes. Now, this isn't just any job. It's huge trust. He's right there, close to power. But something's clearly wrong. The commentary points out something really interesting. Nehemiah had never looked sad in front of the king before, ever. Think about that professional mask, right? Maintained for years, probably. Suddenly it slips. And it wasn't just a bad day. Nehemiah had been preparing for this. Mourning, fasting, praying, building up to this very moment. And the king, he's sharp. He notices immediately. He basically says, "Why the long face? You're not sick? This must be some deep sadness." What do you make of that observation? And Nehemiah's prep.
Well, that's just crucial, isn't it? Think about the court rules, the protocol. Nehemiah couldn't just, walk up and start complaining. The king had to ask first. It really shows Nehemiah's patience and his deep trust that God would create the opening, the right moment. It tells us a lot about sometimes God works through really subtle things like a change in how we look or some small shift in circumstances, things that open up conversations we just couldn't start ourselves. It's like waiting for that perfect wave,
Right. And Nehemiah's reaction when the king asks directly, the commentary says he got very fearful, which, let's be honest, makes total sense. The power difference there is immense. But then he answers boldly. He explains that it was about Jerusalem. He says, the city, the place where my ancestors' tombs are, lies in ruins and its gates are completely burned up. That's quite a shift from fear to just laying it out there. What's a lesson for us in that moment?
It's a fantastic lesson in, timing, strategic timing, and maybe courageous vulnerability. Nehemiah sees the door God opened and he steps through it. The fear, that shows he knew the risk. But the boldness shows his conviction was even stronger. It's about holding on to your purpose, even when things look really daunting. It shows that sometimes the moment to speak isn't one we create, but one that's given to us. And it demands a faithful response.
And that courage, it sets up everything that follows. The king, he's clearly affected. He asked point blank, "What is it that you want?" This is it, the moment. And what does Nehemiah do? Right then, before he says a word back to the king?
He pauses. The scripture doesn't give us the words, but it clearly says, "I prayed to the God of heaven." And that's not just a minor detail. It's huge. It's a model of immediate, quiet dependence. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often do we actually stop, pause like that, and check in with our deepest beliefs or with God before we jump into answering a big question or making a major choice? Nehemiah's quick, silent prayer. It's like a masterclass in getting aligned before you speak, trusting the right words will follow.
And the results of that quick prayer, pretty staggering, actually. The king and the queen's right there, too, asked how long the trip will take. And then, boom. "So it pleased the king to send me, and I gave him a time." That's answered prayer right there on the spot. But he doesn't just stop at getting permission. Oh, no. Nehemiah, he's feeling God's favor now, right? So he pushes a bit. He asks for letters for safe passage from the governors beyond the Euphrates River. And then, even bolder, a letter for Asaph, the guy in charge of the king's forests, for timber, for the city walls, the fortress, and hey, even for his own house while he's there.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is how the provision just grows. Nehemiah started pretty simply, right? Just asking for permission to go. But God's plan, it was way bigger. It wasn't just permission. It included protection, all the materials he'd need, everything. It really shows what you might call asymmetric provision. Like when you commit to something big, the resources can show up. Not just enough, but way more than you asked for, way more than you imagined even. The king didn't just say, okay. He set Nehemiah up for success. Big time.
And the king, according to the good hand of my God on me, Nehemiah says, grants it all. Instantly. But here's the real kicker, the above and beyond part. The king also sends an escort, army captains, cavalry, for protection. Nehemiah didn't even ask for that. It just hammers home the point, doesn't it? When you're really on a mission aligned with God, help can show up in ways you just didn't see coming. It's encouraging for us day to day. I think God's provision isn't just adequate, it's often, well, extravagant.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, that kind of success, that kind of blessing, it tends to attract another kind of attention too. As soon as Nehemiah gets there, boom, opposition.
Yeah.
It seems like it's almost a universal rule, doesn't it? Start doing something good, and someone's going to have a problem with it.
You're so right. The commentary brings in the antagonists, Sanballat, the Horonite governor of Samaria, and Tobiah, the Ammonite governor of Ammon. These are powerful guys, regional players, and their personal interests. Directly threatened by Nehemiah's plan, their reaction. The commentary says they were very displeased that someone had come to promote the welfare of the people of Israel. And the commentary kind of pulls back the curtain on why. Tobiah apparently had a business thing going in the temple, plus serious family connections. His daughter married the high priest's grandson. He married a priest's daughter. They had a cozy setup, financially, politically. Nehemiah showing up to rebuild. That rocked their boat big time. And the commentary says pretty bluntly, sadly, there is much of the same corruption in the church of today. That's a tough reminder, isn't it? How personal gain and self-interest can just overshadow God's plans.
It's really striking how often opposition doesn't just come from outside forces or, different beliefs, but it bubbles up from within, from people with vested interests who feel like they're losing something because of positive change. It really makes you think about how to spot the difference, right? Between genuine obstacles and just self-serving resistance dressed up as concern. This pattern of opposition against good work, especially God-inspired work, it feels incredibly timeless.
And Nehemiah, knowing this opposition would likely pop up, his next moves are really smart. He gets to Jerusalem, and he just waits. 3 days, lets the dust settle, maybe. Then he does something really humble, really strategic. He goes out at night. Just a few guys with him. Doesn't tell anyone else what he's really up to. No big announcement, no rally. He just quietly checks out the damage, surveys the broken walls, the burned gates. The text mentions specific gates. The valley gate may be symbolizing sorrow, trials, and the dung gate where they took the trash out. He's seen the full picture. That quiet obedience, that's such a good example for us. What does that quiet, almost secret survey tell us about good leadership, especially for huge tasks?
Oh, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? About the power of quiet observation, strategic planning before you go public. How much of real leadership, especially the kind inspired by God, involves that careful homework first? Nehemiah's humility, his sort of covert recon, it let him really grasp the situation, the scale of the ruins, the challenge, and maybe more importantly, it let the reality of the situation speak to him, prepare him inside, Instead of relying on a big speech or getting people hyped up immediately, it was about getting grounded himself first.
Right. And only after that quiet survey does Nehemiah talk to the leaders. And he doesn't sugarcoat it. He lays out the hard truth. You see what a sad state we are in? How Jerusalem, that's Jerusalem, lies in ruins, with its gates burned up. Come, let's rebuild the wall of Jerusalem so that we won't continue in disgrace. But he doesn't just leave them with a problem. He shares his story, his testimony. He explains how the gracious hand of my God had been on me and what the king had said to me. He connects his personal journey directly to God's favor and the king's amazing support. And the reaction from the people, it's immediate, enthusiastic. Let's start building it once, they say. And they energetically set out to do this good work.
That's so inspiring. It really drives home the power of sharing our own stories, right? What God has done. It can really ignite others.
Absolutely. What's so powerful there is that combination. A clear, shared vision, yes, but also concrete evidence of God's blessing. It lifts it beyond just, hey, here's a big job we need to do. It becomes this compelling invitation, like, come be part of something that God is clearly involved in. When people see and hear that firsthand evidence of a higher power working, their energy, their commitment, it just skyrockets. It turns a scary task into this mission they desperately want to join.
But like we said, significant work draws opposition, almost like clockwork. So right on cue, Sanballat, Tobiah, and now a third guy, Geshem the Arab. They hear about the building starting, and they don't waste any time. They start mocking, jeering, trying to tear it down before it even gets going. They even accuse Nehemiah, what is this you are doing? Are you going to rebel against the king, trying to politicize it? The commentary notes, it seems that there are always people that will oppose the work of God, and that we should pretty much expect the same today.
Yeah.
So when you're facing that kind of open ridicule, that mockery, where does Nehemiah get his strength? What's behind that incredibly sharp comeback he gives?
Well, it raises that critical question, doesn't it? When you're hit with challenges like that, where do you ground your response? Nehemiah doesn't get drawn into their political games. He doesn't trade insults. Instead, he shifts the entire frame. He grounds the whole project firmly in divine authority, in a future promise. His strength isn't in arguing politics. It's in his absolute conviction that this is God's work. He's not arguing, he's declaring a truth.
Exactly. His comeback is just so definitive. It completely changes the terms of the debate. He says, the God of heaven will enable us to succeed. Therefore, we, his servants, will set about rebuilding. But you have no share, right, or history to commemorate in Jerusalem. Wow. The commentary links that ancient fight over Jerusalem to a same struggle happening now, reminding us that those who oppose God, well, they have no claim to the city. It makes the point that today's city is only temporary and there's a promise of a new Jerusalem. It's a powerful claim of ultimate authority, isn't it? What a journey through just one chapter, Nehemiah 2. It's amazing. We saw Nehemiah's personal pain turn into this God-given mission. We saw a king step up, divine protection, all while navigating, human politics and outright opposition. So what's the bottom line for us? What do we take away? Well, the power of praying first, that humble prayer before big action, the wisdom in quiet, strategic planning, how inspiring it is when you clearly share a God-given vision, and maybe above all, just unwavering faith, trusting God provides that success is possible, even when things look really tough. Nehemiah's story.
It's more than just rebuilding walls, isn't it? It's about the resilience of faith when you're facing huge challenges, outside and inside. It makes you wonder what ruins in your own life, or maybe in the world around you, is God prompting you to quietly check out first, to plan for strategically, and then to courageously start rebuilding, trusting that God's hand will provide maybe even more than you expect.
Yeah, and if you look at the bigger picture here, Nehemiah's story really boils down to this true success. It's not just about human strength or being clever. It's deeply about aligning our own will with God's purpose. It's just such a powerful reminder that even the biggest obstacles, the scariest opposition, can be overcome when, as Nehemiah says, the good hand of my God is on us. Our small steps of obedience, they can actually be part of something much, much bigger, something God himself has planned